Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're all doing okay and having a great day and an amazing week. My name is Effy and today we are starting my collection videos. So in this series I will be going through all the sections of my makeup. It is split into 6 videos and I will just be showing you everything I have in my collection. This is not a declutter, I'm sorry. My plan is to do a collection video at the start of every year and a declutter around the middle of every year, in the hopes that I can at least keep an eye on those products that aren't getting used in my collection. So in January I can spot what's not being used, and then if it's still not being used by July, I can declutter it. That's the idea at least. If you see anything in these collection videos that you would like me to do a video on, please do just let me know and I will try and do that for you. This is video number 1 and we will be focusing on my primers, foundations, concealers, powders and setting sprays. I'm going to keep this intro short so that you can get on with watching it, and I really hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I'm attempting to put up 2 videos a week this year and they are all makeup related, so if that sounds like your thing then this is the place for you. But other than that, enjoy the video. Okay, so we're going to start today with primers. Ignore the mess in this shot, I'm really sorry. But this is where I keep most of my primers. On the top we have primers, some foundations that don't fit in my other storage, setting sprays, highlighters, bronzers, blushes and powders. And then on the second shelf we have all my lip products. So I'm going to grab out all my primers and we will start with them. Okay, so I think that's all my primers. Let's start going through. The first one I have here is the MUA Pro Base Smooth Set and Prime Blur Stick. This was decluttered by a friend and she gave it to me. It's just sort of a draw-on blur stick. I've only used this a couple of times. It's quite good. It'll be in my collection for a little while longer. This was also decluttered by my friend and given to me, and I actually really enjoy this. When she gave it to me it was almost full and now it's down to here. This is the Primark PS Prep and Perfect Prime and Infuse Instant Hydration Priming Spray infused with hyaluronic acid and watermelon extract. It is just a spray, and in the summer this was a lifesaver when it was super hot here in the UK. Bit of this on my face, beautiful. Collection Primed and Ready Primer, hydrating primer, infused with Advanced Moisture Complex. This is quite nice. I've been going for more of a hydrated base recently because of how cold and dry it is here in the UK, and I quite like this one. It's hydrating, it gives a good sticky base for makeup. It's quite nice. I quite enjoy it. And generally, collection products, super cheap, and I did a collection testing video and I really liked quite a lot of them. So this Revolution really Pro Correcting Primer, this is the anti-redness primer. It's a green colour. I've had this in my collection the longest. It's probably the oldest primer I have here, but because I sometimes get redness on my face, I like to keep it. But you need the smallest amount, and then you just pat it out and it covers up some redness, and it is quite good. It's not the best anti-redness primer I've ever tried. The best one I've tried is the Soap and Glory Kick-Ass Concealer, I think it is. It's in like a stick. It's quite thick, it covers up redness really well, but this is a good replacement for when that one went out of date and I had to throw it away. Another MUA primer here, this is the Pro Base Mattifying Flawless Primer. It's kind of just like your standard mattifying primer. Nothing special about it. It's quite good. It does its job. It's nice. It smells nice. It's got like a coconut smell, I think, which I'm not a big fan of coconut, but this one isn't too bad. I quite like this. I probably need to reach for it a bit more. I could probably finish this up. It's not in my project pan, but I probably could use this up this year if I wanted to. This is the NYX Pore Filler Targeted Stick. This was very kindly sent to me by NYX, but this is probably one of my favourite items I have in my whole collection. I rub this over the areas where I have larger pores, so mainly my nose and my cheeks, and it just makes my foundation sit so nicely on top of it. it's as if I don't have pores. I really enjoy this. I Heart Revolution Strawberry Whip Pore Blurring Primer with vitamin C and E. This is the one that I've put in my project pan for the first 3 months of the year. With this, it's not my favourite. You have to give it a really good shake, otherwise you just kind of get oil. Let's see if I can show you. Oh no, it's not too bad, right? It's an alright primer. It smells nice. It does its job. It's just not my favourite, and I can't even tell you why. I've put way too much on my hand. The Too Faced Hangover RX Replenishing Face Primer. This is a tester. I won this in a giveaway held by a girl that I follow on Instagram. This is alright. It's not mind-blowing. I don't see why it gets... That was too much. Making a mess. I don't see why it gets as much hype as it does. It's very hydrating, I will give it that. I do like a hydrating primer at the moment. Also, this is a really small tube, and I think I could probably finish this one up this year as well. I think I might try to, because it is just such a small tube. I don't think I would repurchase this, just because Too Faced isn't the cheapest brand, and this isn't the best primer I've ever tried. So, there's my opinion on that. The NYX Marshmallow Primer. This was also very kindly sent to me, and I actually really like this as well. It's not just because it got sent to me, I just really like this primer. I think this does a really good job of smoothing out your face, and I particularly like wearing this when I don't feel like wearing foundation. I just think it smooths out your skin, it evens out your skin tone a little bit, it smells nice as well. I love the smell of this stuff, but it's just a really good primer. This is the Barry M Pixie Skin Blurring Beauty Elixir. I've almost used this up. I feel like I could use this up this year. Fun fact, I bought this. It has aloe vera in it, and I bought it a couple of years ago now. But when I bought it, my boyfriend Jack decided to get loads and loads of sunburn on his face, and we didn't have anything with aloe vera in it in the house other than this, so he actually used up like half the bottle on his sunburnt face before I even got the chance to test it. But I do really like this, and I'm glad his sunburn's cleared up and things like that. But I actually would repurchase this. It's not my favourite primer, but it definitely does soothe and hydrate, and it's really good, and the packaging is super pretty. This one I only tested yesterday. I don't know if my XX Revolution testing video will be up, but I filmed it yesterday, and spoiler, I quite like this. It is very hydrating. The only problem is it has tiny glitters in it. Which actually has just reminded me, there is another primer I need to go grab. Don't know how well you'll be able to see. My hand is just primed and ready for action right now. But it does have tiny glitters in it, which for me isn't ideal. But I feel like if you put foundation on, it could just look like a nice healthy glow. And the packaging is stunning and it looks really pretty. I actually like this. I prefer this to the one I'm about to show you anyway. My final primer, the XX Revolution H2 Glow Bomb. I don't like this. It is so glittery. I tested this in my Instagram Chooses My Makeup video part 2, where I tested all the products that didn't get picked in the first round. And it is so, I don't think you can see that, but it is so glittery. And unlike the Elixir one, the glitters are blue. In this they're pink, which I feel like is a bit more acceptable to have on your face, but having blue glitter all over your face, it's not the one. But I feel like I could use this if I have a high coverage foundation, because it doesn't show through that. But there we go, that is all of my primers. Let's put these ones away and we'll start on foundations. Okay, so I've just picked out these 4 which were sat in that other container, but the rest of my foundations sit in here, so I'm just going to quickly show you this. This container was a gift from my uncle's last Christmas, so I can't even tell you where it's from, I'm really sorry. But in here I keep my sort of miscellaneous eye products. These will be in another video. My lashes, these will be in another video. My foundations, which I'm about to grab out. Behind here I have concealers and eye primers. I have eyeliners, lip liners, mascaras, brow gels and brow pencils over here. So let's grab out my foundations and go through that. So there we go, that is all my foundations. Probably far too many, but let's get into it. So we'll start with the XX Revolution. Again, I don't know if the video is up already, but I actually quite liked this. This is their matte like foundation. I can't remember what it's called, but I really liked it. I was worried this was going to be far too matte, but it wasn't. It actually worked quite well on my skin. It didn't cling to dry patches, which is what I was really worried about. It is high coverage, probably one of my more full coverage foundations, and I want to test the one that comes in a gold lid because I think that's their glow version. But this one is quite nice. The one with the pink lid, I'm almost certain I heard that it has glitter in it. Why is XX Revolution putting glitter in everything? I don't know. I'm not going to swatch all of my foundations, but I will tell you the shades. This is F2. In the Revolution foundations, I do tend to be F2. Although this one is the one that is in my project pan. This is the Revlon Colour Stay for combination and oily skin in the shade 150 Buff. I've had this foundation the longest time. This is probably my oldest foundation in my collection. Maybe the Super Stay, but these two I've had the longest. I bought this because Soph recommended it. I am trying to use it up. There's not much left. You can sort of see that it's starting to empty out a little bit. So hopefully I can get rid of this just because it's been in my collection far too long. This is the Revolution Fast Base Stick Foundation. I have the smallest amount left. That's me rolling it all the way up. This is in the shade F2 as well. This isn't my favourite. I'm not a big fan of stick foundations. I think they're too thick and too like oily, I think. I don't know. Too creamy for me, really. I used to use this for cut creases on my eyes, but I actually have eye primers now and I use them instead. But I do want to finish this up this year. I'm not going to put it in my project pan, I don't think, at any point, but hopefully I can just use up that tiniest amount. This is my current favourite. It is the MUA Pro Base Longwear Matte Finish Foundation in the shade 102. It comes on a spatula, and I say this every time I use it. I actually quite like that it is on a spatula because it means you get to decide how much you put on your face. This is the one I used with that H2 Glow Bomb primer from Revolution, and I love this foundation. It was in my favourites that I filmed like last year. I really like it, and it did not sit well over that H2 Glow Bomb, which makes me question the primer because I know this works well. The NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation, I was sent this by NYX again. It's in the shade Light. I like this. It's not my favourite. I feel like so many people used to go on about this foundation and say how good it is. I don't see that hype. I think it's alright. I think it's like a slightly worse version of the Super Stay. And I know that's not very nice to say, but I don't know. There's just something about this that I don't like. I think it oxidizes slightly, which doesn't help. I also think it looks a bit cakey sometimes, so I'm not sure. I'm going to keep using it because I do like it, and it is a good fuller coverage foundation without being like massive full coverage. So I don't know. It's not my favourite, but it's not unusable. Speaking of unusable, this is the NYX, oh, shake it up, Total Control Pro Drop Foundation. NYX also sent me this. They also sent me the Total Control Pro like hue shifter that lightens your foundation. I haven't used that yet, actually, because all my foundations are pale. This I hated. I've never hated a foundation before. I hated this. It did not work for me. I was told by somebody on Instagram that it is a satin finish foundation, and at the time I had really bad dry patches, and because of the dry patches it wasn't going to look good on me because it's a satin finish. I don't really understand all of that, but I was told to try putting it in some moisturiser, mixing them together and putting them on my skin as sort of like a tinted moisturiser. I know I should try doing that, but because I had such a bad experience the first time I used this, I just don't want to use it. Nothing really to say about this. Haven't tried it. It seems fine, but yeah, haven't tried it. This is the Primark My Perfect Colour Double Coverage Matte Foundation Longwear Matte Finish Oil-Free SPF 15 in the shade Porcelain 01. This has coverage. This has more coverage than any other foundation in my collection. However, I've only used it once because it has a pour thing that you pour it out, and I'm not a big fan of that. She's already been mentioned a couple of times, but this is the Maybelline Super Stay 24-hour foundation. They do have a newer version, which is like 30 hours or 36 hours, I can't remember. But I want to use up this one before I test that one, Does this have a shade name that I can read? It's in the shade 03 True Ivory. This is, other than the Primark one I just showed you, this is probably the highest coverage foundation I have in my collection. I quite like this. It doesn't look too cakey if you use the right primer and the right powder with it. You want a primer that's kind of hydrating, and you want a powder that's very finely milled. I quite like this. Okay, so I have a bit of a collection, apparently, of the Revolution Conceal and Define foundation. I have F1 and 2 F2s. The reason why I have 2 different shades is because I like to use F1 around the centre of my face, and then F2 is my actual, like, skin colour shade. So I use that all around the rest of my face. The reason why I use the F1 is to sort of highlight without having to highlight, really. Hopefully I can get these used up, because this used to be my go-to foundation, my everyday foundation, and it is really, really good for that. It's a good level of coverage. It's not too matte. It's not too satin, not matte. It's just overall a really good foundation for me, at least, and I really like it. This one here is the Collection Lasting Perfection Glow Foundation in the shade Porcelain 2. Number 1 is like rose porcelain and more pink, but I love this foundation. This is a close favourite with the MUA, which is funny because they're probably my 2 cheapest foundations that I own. This is really, really good. It's hydrating, it's glowy without being too glowy. It works well with every primer I've used it with. It's super cheap. I can't remember how much it is, but it is super, super cheap. And actually I wore this and my nan gave me a compliment on my makeup, and my nan doesn't normally do that. She's not really a makeup person, and she often says that she prefers me without makeup, but I wore this and she did say it looked nice, so thumbs up from Nan, thumbs up from me. And finally, this is the Primark PS Pro Longwear Radiant Matte Foundation, medium buildable coverage in the shade 123 Warm. This isn't a bad foundation, actually. I prefer this to the other one that I showed you. It comes with a pump, which is probably part of the reason why I prefer it. But I actually quite like this. It's not as matte, it's not as full coverage. I would wear this every day. It is a very everyday foundation. And it is super cheap. It was £6, which is probably one of my cheaper foundations. And there we go. That is all of my foundations. So I'm just going to probably shuffle them over to the side and then show you my concealers. This is the Primark PS Pro Camouflage Flawless Matte Concealer in the shade 111 Cool. I'm pretty sure I've only used this once, and that was in the testing video. It's just so full coverage. So full coverage. There we go, you can kind of see, like, I've spread that out quite far. I didn't even put that much on my hand. This is the Collection Lasting Perfection Concealer in the shade 1 Rose Porcelain. This is what I use to highlight my under eyes. It is more pink toned than the foundation I have. I do have a matching foundation in this shade. I do really, really like this. It's not too matte, even though it is a matte concealer. I think it's quite nice. This actually goes quite well with my MUA foundation because, again, I could probably get away without setting this. I mean, my under eyes are a bit questionable because they like to crease, but this is actually a really nice concealer. The I Heart Revolution Heartbreakers Concealer in the shade Buttermilk. I don't know how many times I've said this. This is not my favourite concealer. I actually don't particularly like it. The doe foot on it is a little heart shape, which you would think is super cute, but it is not super useful. It doesn't hold a lot of product at all. The shade range isn't great in this concealer, which is a shame because Revolution tend to have a decent shade range in foundations and concealers, at least. This did not meet the standard that I was expecting. Also doesn't have great coverage. Like, I'm bashing it, but I should remember, it's not a bad concealer. It's fine. It works well enough. It does its job. It's just nowhere near my favourite. This is the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop concealer. This is in the shade Pale. NYX did very kindly send me this. I don't know if I said they also sent me both of those foundations. I'm sorry if I didn't say, but pretty much everything NYX in my collection, bar like the Epic Ink liner, they sent me, which is very, very kind of them, and I really, really appreciate it. I like this concealer. It's not my favourite. It's quite drying. If I put this on a dry patch, you can tell. It's very pale, but unlike the collection one, it's sort of a yellowy toned instead of a pinky toned. I prefer this to the foundation, to be completely honest, but it is just a little bit drying and it's not great on dry patches, so if you have dry skin, this probably isn't the one for you. MUA Pro Base Full Coverage Concealer. Full coverage is a lie. This is in the shade 100. I pretty much only use this for lightening my under eyes and like the centre of my face because it's probably the palest concealer I have. The NYX and the collection one are higher coverage than this. But it's not bad for lightening certain areas of my face. My Project Pan concealers. These are the Revolution Conceal and Define. I have a super size in the shade C1 and C2, and then I have a standard size in the shade C1. These are all open and partially used, and they've been in my collection quite a while. This used to be my go-to concealer. It works well enough for like covering spots and things like that. It has a decent amount of coverage, I would say. It is a good concealer. I do still like it. Again, kind of like the foundations, they're kind of go-to everyday products for me. So I quite like that. These, now you may be confused, this is the shade C1, this is the shade C6. I am not shade C6. My friend who decluttered her makeup decluttered this and for some reason thought I could use it. No, I'm joking. She just brought it around and said if I can use it, I should, and if I can't, then I should pass it on to somebody else. I probably will do. The only thing this shade would be useful for me is maybe colour correcting because it is a bit deeper and a bit of a warmer tone. So if I have like blue under eyes, this will be quite good for it. Instead of using an actual colour corrector, this would work quite well. Overall, the Conceal and Hydrate formula I really like. In fact, I prefer this to this one now. Under my eyes, perfection. I think it is great. I think it does a really good job. This has been my go-to over this one recently, but I really should focus on using this one up too. I don't know what I'm going to do with this C6 shade. I might try using it as a colour corrector, and if that doesn't work, I will pass it on to somebody else. And the final concealer I have is probably my newest one in my collection, because I only tested it yesterday. It is the XX Revolution, I cannot remember the name of it, in the shade C1, I'm really sorry. I quite liked this, you know. It's full coverage, it does its job, it's a... come out, no you don't. It's a decent shade, it just works. I quite liked it. It's not too matte, it's not too drying, it works well. It did crease under my eyes, but a lot of foundations do, but I will say this probably creased a fair amount. I think I will get a lot of use out of it. I like the bottle as well, so this sort of frosted appearance I really like. I think I will get a lot of use out of this. This might become one that I reach for fairly regularly, which is nice. That's what I want. I want to want my makeup, if that makes sense. There we go. That is all of my concealers. What I'm going to do now is put my concealers and foundations back, and I'm going to grab my powders. My powders are over in that 3-basket storage thing over there, so I'm going to grab them out and show them to you. So powders, probably quite a short part of my collection. Powders do not excite me at all. They literally just set my face. I do have favourites, but overall, powder's powder. We'll start with the one that is in my Project Pan. This is the Revolution Loose Baking Powder in the shade Translucent. This is a big load of powder, and I don't think I'm ever going to use it all up, but it's in my Project Pan to try and make a dent in it. There's like literally the smallest gap at the top, and I've had this forever. This and my Rimmel are probably the oldest powders I have in my collection, and I doubt I'll ever use all of this up. I hate the packaging. The lid is useless. Normally what I do is take the lid off my Rimmel one and pour it into there, because you can't put your brush in this. It's useless. But for the amount of products you get, if you were to just buy this, it would probably do you for the next like 3 or 4 years of your life, honestly. And it's quite good. It's quite finely milled. It works quite well. I think it doesn't easily go cakey. It obviously can look cakey if you use too much. And although it is a baking powder, I never bake my face. I just don't think it would work for me. So if you do bake your face, maybe this will work for you because it is a baking powder. But for me, it's just a setting powder and I quite like it. The MUA Loose Setting Powder in the shade Invisible Silk. This is white, like white. I quite like this. It's very finely milled. Like, oh god, it's all in the lid. Great. Cool. It is so finely milled, it just goes everywhere, and I think it clings a little bit to some parts of my face, which isn't the best, but I do quite like it. It is very, very white. If I need to lighten a foundation, this helps a little bit. The Primark PS Pro Natural Finish Flawless Foundation, Flawless Powder and Foundation in the shade 212 Neutral. This is a powder foundation, which means it does have quite a lot of pigment to it. I've only used this once. I didn't particularly like it. Yeah, maybe I should try using it as an actual foundation, but it's just not really my thing. This is another Primark product, the PS My Perfect Colour Bake It Setting Powder in the shade Nude. I used this in a video recently, I can't remember which one. I used a super small amount, and it wasn't too bad. I think the first time I used it, I used too much, and then I just hated it forevermore. It does have like a net system going on in there. The collection Lasting Perfection Sheer Loose Powder in Matte. This is quite nice. I have no strong feelings towards or against this powder. It does its job. Like I said, powder isn't exciting to me. It's a good enough powder. Again, it's very cheap. If you are looking for a cheap powder, it does its job. My Rimmel, so much so, pretty much all the writing is rubbed off it. It just says 01 transparent. Is it the Rimmel Stay Matte pressed powder? I've hit pan on this, and I'm pretty sure this is the second one of these that I've ever owned, because this used to be the only powder I owned. It's quite good. I really should finish it up and get some use out of it and really finish it up, because it is good. I used to use this a lot when I used to commute to work and get the train to work. I would do my makeup on the train because I didn't want to get up earlier and do it before I left. So this was really good for that. This is one I tested yesterday in my XX Revolution video. It is fine. I'm not sure about it. Actually, it feels a bit chalky. But this is like, what, £10 or something like that? It did set my face, although I will be honest, when I set my face, it didn't feel 100% set. I feel like I need to test this more. Like I said, I only used it yesterday. It needs to be tested a bit more. This is the powder I am the most sold on. This is the I Heart Revolution, what's it called? Scented Baking Powder in the shade Peach. I don't really think it smells like peaches. Either that or I don't know what peaches smell like. But I love this powder. This is technically like a coloured powder. They do have a translucent one, which is their coconut one. But I couldn't find that when I bought this. I did do an I Heart Revolution testing video, by the way. This is a good one, and it's probably my favourite powder. This is the one I take with me when I go home, which is kind of annoying because this is actually the biggest one in my collection. So it's a bit of a pain to fit into my makeup bag. But it is really good, and I quite like it. Okay, should I do setting sprays in this video? Yeah, we'll quickly do setting sprays. I don't have that many. I don't have many setting sprays just because they take forever to use up. So I try not to test one every single time I do a testing video. But these are the ones that I have. So first of all, we have the Revolution Pro Fix Oil Control Fixing Spray. This one and this one here I've had since before I started doing YouTube. Also probably the Urban Decay one. But I really want to use this up. There's not much left in it. There's probably like this much left. This one and also this one, they're not my favourite setting sprays. I don't know how well they work on my face. But I like to use setting sprays to wet shimmer shades to make them more pigmented. And it does that job, and so does that one. It wets stuff, it does that, and that's all I need it for. And it does a good job of it. I'm hoping I will finish this one this year. Same with this one. So this one is the Revolution Sport Fix. This has even less in it. This is probably like down to here. This one I've also never put on my face. If you watched my I Heart Revolution testing video, I think this is a limited edition, by the way, from like 2020 Christmas, I'm not sure. This is the Chocolate Cherry. It comes out in such an aggressive, like single point shoot across the room sort of situation. So I was not going to put this on my face. But what I think I'm going to do is when I finished up one of these two, I will sort of either take the spray and put it on this bottle or just pour this into this empty bottle. and hopefully I can get some use out of it then, because I've really not tested this and it's kind of bugging me that it's just sitting in my collection not getting used. The MUA Pro Base Mattifying Fixing Spray. This is in my project pan because it is probably the smallest setting spray I have in my collection. It's not bad. It does mattify, and it also sort of, the way I use setting spray is I will do all of my base makeup and have all my powders on my face and then put a setting spray over it just to sort of hydrate it back up but also dry it down and mattify it, and it just makes it look a bit better in my opinion. It makes it look less powdery, a bit more skin like. It can help with cakiness but not always, so I quite like it for that reason. This is the Collection Primed and Ready Dewy Makeup Fixing Spray. I don't know what was going through my head when I bought all the makeup for my collection video. For some reason I wanted everything to be dewy and hydrating and glowy. I am not a dewy, hydrating or glowy person. I am a matte person. But I'm trying to get more into a glowy phase, a dewy phase. This is actually quite nice. I quite like it. It's a good setting spray. I think it did give me like a slight dewiness, which was quite nice. The Urban Decay All Nighter. We all know this setting spray. It's a good one. I know some people don't particularly care for it. I do. I think it's really good. I think it does make your makeup last a little bit longer. I do think it's really good. This used to be my go-to every day, which is a shame because of how expensive it is. Compared to these, this is quite expensive, but I would repurchase this in a heartbeat. And then this one. It looks like nothing, but give it a minute. Look at it now. Look at all the swirly golden goodness. This is the XX Revolution Gold Fix Setting Spray. Again, I only used this yesterday. I quite like it. It's good. It did leave like some small droplets on my face, and in those droplets there was this gold pigment, but it was not noticeable. You had to be like right up in my face to notice it. And I do think this actually gave your skin like a nice glow. It did also help in terms of like waking up all the powders on my face and sort of giving them a bit of hydration. So I do think this is a good one. And there we go. That is all of my setting sprays. So we have done primers, foundations, concealers, powders and setting sprays in this video. I think that's a good amount for the video. Hopefully it wasn't too long, but hopefully it was also in-depth enough to give you some insight into my makeup. I will let you watch the outro now. See you in the next one. Okay, that is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I certainly have enjoyed going through my makeup, and I definitely have spotted a few products that I should keep an eye on for decluttering in July. If you like this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. But other than that, I hope you have a great day and an amazing week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.